Do you like yourself? Do you know yourself? Do you identify with certain labels, with certain emotions, thoughts, beliefs, actions? Do you identify with the label of confident? And therefore your actions have to align to that. So, okay, if I identify with the label of confident, then my actions reflect that. So I walk into a room and my posture's up straight and I can communicate with anyone in the room. Though the thing with all this is that sometimes these things lack coherence. Sometimes we identify with a label to the point where we are literally just pushing to fulfill the characteristics of that label, instead of actually tuning into if that's still serving or not, if that is true for me or not. As artists, creatives, that's a pretty big label. Artist, painter, musician. And so what does that label entail? What characteristics does an artist have? And so if one day you are not fulfilling those characteristics, where do you go? Do you start to spiral? Do you start to self-hate? Do you feel imposter syndrome? These are all things to get real with ourselves about. Because how are these labels then holding us back? We are such multidimensional, multifaceted beings that to fully identify with 1, 2, 3 labels is like saying black and white and there's nothing in between. And there are infinite shades in between. Recently in my life I've discovered microtonal music. And it's just like color. There's red, there's yellow, you mix them together and at varying ratios there are infinite tones in between. So one thing that is linked to this is essentially the resistance to knowing oneself. Know thyself, as the axiom goes. And so how do you go knowing yourself? Do you know yourself? When you look in the mirror, what are thoughts that come through? Do you recognize that everything and everyone is a mirror? It's not just that reflective surface. Your outer realm is a mirror for your inner realm, and vice versa. As within, so without. As above, so below. The only reason that there are blocks that you have identified with, right? The block of not enough confidence, the block of I'm an artist and therefore the program is starving artist. That's a label that's not really serving you. It's been romanticized, but also distorted. Because the truth, if we're using that particular example, the truth about the starving artist is that if you are actually genuinely connected to your own energy, to your creative energy, to the channel through which that energy pulses and animates everything that you do and everything that you see, it is almost impossible that you are starving, because everything is energy. And the more you move energy, the more energy flows. So if you are experiencing a block of money, that is a telling sign that there is blocked energy within you. As above, so below. As within, so without. So for me, because I find it really helpful to, at least for me, when I'm listening to someone speak and I receive an example, this for me is extremely helpful. So, example time. Within my own life, I have been experiencing the block of financial abundance. the block stemming from that block is not good enough. And the block stemming from that is I don't love myself enough. And the block stemming from that is I believed that love comes from outside. And so the outside tells me whether I can love myself or not. There are so many layers. And once you penetrate personal layers, you got ancestral, you got collective, heck, you've even got planetary. So unfortunately, the process doesn't end. Though the more real you become, the more energy flows through you, and the more that you are able to access and stay in a flow state, a true flow state. Not the flow state where you bypass any challenge that comes your way, but the kind of flow state where challenge arises, new information arises, and you can adapt. You can meet the new information, the challenge, with a smile. And not to say you don't feel emotion. You could be feeling extremely angry inside. That is blue flame. It's not red flame. You don't cause unnecessary drama. And this drama often stems from the drama triangle. So that's victim, rescuer, persecutor. In my own life, I have been a mother flippin' victim because I've been a mother flippin' rescuer. You cannot be one without being in the other because you're within the triangle. You're within the drama triad. So essentially, as soon and as long as you remain in a victimized state, you remain in over-analysis, thinking that the solution is going to come from outside of you, you're going to keep looking for a rescuer and you're going to stay blocked because nobody and nothing can heal you except you. Again, something that's really been coming through is this full self-responsibility. And this in itself is a massive journey. There are so many layers to self-responsibility, and there is potentially a fine line between neurosis and full self-responsibility, because it's also true that not everything is in your control. That's also where the surrender piece comes. So coming back to my own personal experience in life, health, flowing energy. Well, health is flowing energy. TCM, health systems that work with the meridians, with energy, they all speak to health as being energy in movement, energy in motion, which is its natural state. Energy is naturally in motion. If it's not in motion, it's stuck, it's blocked, it creates issues. So what we're speaking to here is a resistance to knowing oneself. And if there's resistance, there are blocks in the way, and you may not want to look at those blocks. So, my experience. Health for me is a holistic approach. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, relational health. I, in the past, have just fixated on physical. For some years now, I've been experiencing IBS, so bloating, really sensitive to food, blocked guts, right? Leaky gut. And I, for so long, just fixated on the physical, just fixated on the food I was consuming, getting super specific to the amount, measuring everything, super fixated, super obsessive, thinking that this one thing was going to save me. The number on the scales was going to mean I was finally happy and good enough, that I was lovable and could be loved, and I would love myself. Doesn't work like that. Well, it didn't for me, because I wasn't focusing on the other pillars. Health was so much more than just the food I was eating. What emotions was I eating? What thoughts was I eating? What people, environment, social dynamics was I consuming? You are what you eat. You are what you eat on a physical and metaphysical level. And for me, I was eating fixation. I was eating not good enough. I was eating obsession. I was eating comparison, competition, fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of judgment. These are the things I was eating. I was also eating a lack of self-acceptance. I literally was hiding the fact that I was exercising, somehow thinking that that was not okay, that I would be seen as being competitive, when actually I just needed to move my body because I was so sensitive to the competition in my environment. And so then I started becoming it, as within, so without. So on a physical level, first fixation on food, symptoms of IBS. They're still with me. I'm still working through that. This is a huge healing journey because of how multifaceted it is. So on a mental level, over-analysis as crazy. Crazy town over-analysis. Like, it was a complete trauma response because I constantly was trying to understand everything, to understand why that meant that, why they were acting that way, why they said that thing, what does that mean, why. And by understanding something, you've got to come into resonance with it, and so you become it. So that really, for me, told me and showed me that I was becoming the things that I was resisting. What you resist persists. I started becoming the judgment that I experienced in my family dynamic because I wanted to understand why it was happening. I started becoming the rage and resentment because of how traumatizing that was for me in my family dynamic. And so, so much love for my family. I'm here where I am today because of them. And there's some shit that went down, right? I mean, I believe we incarnate into particular family dynamics to be extremely challenged and to challenge. So within that, on an emotional level, I was holding on to negative emotions. Blocked guts, bloated as all hell, holding on. Something that came through in a shamanic clearing that I had from one of my teachers the other day was the theme of anal retention. And this is really interesting because anal retention happens when we're 1 to 2 years old, and something that we create is seen as disgusting. So we could pee on ourselves or shit ourselves or vomit or something that we create is then met with ew. And so as the sponge that we are at 1 to 2 years old, suddenly we create an association that something that is us is disgusting and not acceptable. And so we are then, therefore, from that point, holding on, not allowing that energy to move through out of the fear of being seen as disgusting and therefore not loved. So then that perpetuates another story, cycles within time. Growing older, if you do something that is seen as bad, you're not going to be loved. And so then for me, I completely people pleased. So much people pleasing to the point where I molded to everything and everyone. And who the flip is Sophie? Who is she? What does she think? What does she want? What are her needs? What does she want to eat? Where does she want to go? Who does she want to hang out with? What does she want to talk about? Okay, they flaked again. Okay, people pleaser meant that she didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. And beyond the people pleaser, I definitely could have moved that energy that I was therefore holding on to and said, like, F you guys, you flaked again. What the don't even know if I can swear on this platform. What the frick, right? So emotions, holding on to stuck dark emotions instead of moving them. Energy wants to be in motion. Emotion is energy in motion. There's actually a video that I did a while back called Emotion in Motion. I'll link that so you can check it out. Nice arts therapy based integration process, which is cool. So then on a spiritual level, right? Disconnected. Sure, my family is sort of atheist, that's another label, great, but my own personal experience, very disconnected from spirit. I saw spirit as just God and Jesus and Mother Nature, and then there wasn't much beyond that. There was no trust. Without being spiritually connected, I didn't trust. I didn't trust the process. I didn't trust myself. And so I tried to control everything. And this led to, on a relational level, independence as a trauma response. So independent. So comfortable in the end with doing things my way and not asking for help, not knowing what to do if help came my way. Fully independent. So much so that I isolated myself. I took myself out of the natural flow of the universe of giving and receiving. And so, energy got stuck again. There has been so much stuck energy in my body that I've been holding on to that it's going to take me years, probably, to process it. So much rage. So much anger, so much grief, so much anxiety, confusion, frustration, embarrassment, regret, denial. All of these things that society says is bad is what the retention, that's what I held on to. And that stuff hasn't come up for me until I felt safe. And the tricky thing about that is when you're finally safe for your stuff to come up, it's like the mind then associates that where you're at as not being safe because it's such a terrible experience with all your stuff coming up. I can speak for right now in my life, past few years. I was living in Berlin. I came back to finish studies, which I wasn't into, literally just pick subjects that could get me to Berlin. And it worked. I got one of two places in the exchange, so good job, Sophie. But then coming back, I was like, no, I can't do this. It's not me. I'm living someone else's goddamn story. No, what do I want to do? Why can't I trust what I want to do? Why is there this program that is saying that, well, the thing that you feel called to do is not good enough? That actually it's not the right thing to do. One of the people on my email list responded to my email. If you're watching this, hey. But he was saying how, what if you could just trust that pull? What if you could just trust that pull to create, and that that's what you need to do, and that it's worthwhile and not a waste of time? What if, the painting, scribbling, drawing, dancing, singing, what if that wasn't a waste of time and that was exactly what you needed to do to process your stuff, to move that energy? And exactly. Any block that I have been experiencing, block in confidence, block in money, block in sticking to a schedule, to devotion, for me, I've realized this is all because there's just blocked energy within my system. And so that's where we can really strip it all back, to demystify maybe the whole thing of creative blocks or blocks in general. And yes, there are many facets to that. There are definitely emotional sides and mental thought patterns that we need to address. Step one is to move that energy in a physical way. Okay, if you are feeling super frustrated, then maybe shake a little bit, maybe go for a walk. If you're feeling super in your head, maybe sitting down to meditate is not actually going to do so much because you're just going to be in your head again. So then doing some body tapping, get yourself in your body, press the K1 points on the bottom of your feet. The body is the barometer, right? Our vessel is always present. Always. That's why the whole gut instinct is no-brainer. Literally no-brainer, but this is a second brain. So, to move on from this, to continue speaking about the resistance to looking at oneself, to knowing oneself. You know, it's also the capacity to understand, or at least bring awareness to particular moments in your life that were really key points that maybe created a change in how you showed up in the world. You know, if there are particular moments that broke your trust in the universe, that this is such a terrible thing that happened, so how could I trust ever again? This is a block. You're not allowing energy to flow through you. I speak from experience again. One example, there are many, right? But one example is when I was super young, I poured my heart and soul into creating a book from scratch. I got my pieces of paper, folded them up, bound them together, drew on every single page, created an entire story. Hours of my time. But time wasn't relevant back then. It was love. I poured so much love and care into this and was so excited to share. So excited to share my stuff and for it to be received. But my sister ruined it. She ripped it. She drew on it. This, for me, broke my trust. And the fact that I'm still processing that in some way is a sign that there's energy that was stored within my body at that age that I didn't move. And the body is not existing so much in time. It's, you know, if you've read anything about trauma will play out until the body has let it go. Because the body doesn't know if it's happening still or not. And so my body, without moving that block, in some sense, still believes that that experience is happening. So interesting. So there's a complexity, it feels like, but also a deep simplicity. Like it's bringing it back to the body, bringing it back to what are my actions? You know, what are actions that can help with this? What are thoughts that could assist me in this? What I do in Path of Heart is take you through actions, feelings, thoughts, beliefs. So we can get to the core of what are you doing, what are you feeling, what are you thinking, what are you believing, and why? Who said? Is that yours? Why does the inner critic come in when something good is happening? Bringing it back to me, my personal experience, to anchor in the example. Within my own life, when something positive starts happening, I don't trust it because of that experience with my sister ruining that creation, through being excited about something that doesn't happen, many different things that the inner child is extremely sensitive to. And so when something positive starts to happen in my life, there's this part of me that's so excited. And then this other protective part, the inner critic, comes in and criticizes and judges it and destroys it from happening. Why? Because it's some weird, twisted self-protection mechanism that is somehow convincing me that I'm safer if it doesn't even happen. So I'm going to ruin it. I'm going to stop it from happening. So there's no chance that I'll be hurt from the outside world. So I'll just hurt myself by making it not happen. So that is stemmed from, like, that action of, you know, creating drama when something good is happening out of a trauma response is still the drama triad. Like, that's still victim. And then I create a persecutor or a rescuer. And so how can we save ourselves? If I, for example, am in victim, how can I save myself? No one's going to do it for me. And sure as shit a rescuer isn't. They're going to keep you in the drama triad. You're going to keep them there. I'm going to call that in. So if feels important to continually anchor it in with example, like I'm doing here, and then invite reflection for you. How do you save yourself? How do you move energy that is blocked? How do you move energy from a negative thought that is extremely convincing, but how do you move it? Or do you identify with it? Do you pick up that thought, and as the antenna that you are, you think it's you, and so you welcome it in and say, thank you very much, I will deal with that. Thank you, I will take all your unrepressed collective shadow. Thank you so much, collective. Or are you able to realize that your true nature is that of peace, love, balance, bliss, neutrality? And so when you experience that, maybe the way to save yourself could be to actually ask if it's even yours. And if the first answer that comes is no, you can ask again, well, where did it come from? First answer, bang. Okay, this person. Whoa, okay. How does that link? Don't overthink it. Because I can promise you, over-analysis is just another block. It is not going to fix you. You figuring every single thing out is not going to help you. There is a certain point where you literally have to just accept, observe, witness, let go. This is not a encouragement to cop shit that you don't have to cop, because that's just a victim again. This is the capacity to raise above it, to crack yourself away from the drama triad and allow energy to then flow through. So, can you do that? Can you see something within yourself unfold and witness it? I think of Ram Dass right now. His so, this again. Okay, so. The witness, without dissociating, right? So without actually taking the time to understand yourself, to know yourself, to be able to look in the mirror and look at your shadow, look at your stuff, not run away, not project it to the outside and project it onto someone else, that it's in them and not me. It's their fault, not mine. If you haven't taken the time to do that, then how can you expect for energy to be flowing? How can you expect people to know how to help you, right? How can you expect someone to know how you're even feeling, how you're even experiencing life, if you don't even know how you're experiencing life? And yes, absolutely, people on our path show us our blind spots. There's a certain extent, though, when you can just bypass even self-work by just expecting someone else to do the work for you. It's a dance, guys. It's a dance. And so within this dance, it's leading and being led. In contact improvisation, you lead by being led. You listen by leading. You lead by listening. It's this point of contact with reality from which you can flow. But that requires your attention and your concentration, and beyond that, surrender. If you just scrape the surface of your process, you're going to bypass a really profound opportunity to surrender, to trust, to know yourself more than anyone else, the good, the bad, and the ugly, to move the necessary blocks that are in the way between you and your dream life, your soul-aligned life. And, well, what's the point of that? Do you want to stay blocked? I don't. Am I doing everything I possibly can to not be blocked? Probably not. Shit, there's so much I could be doing. So much. That's where my head has gotten in the way of, well, if I can't do everything, I won't do anything. All or nothing. If I don't do the altar work, the breath work, the meditation, the qigong, the yoga, the throat singing, the body tapping, the energy cultivation practice, the eating at the same time, the going to sleep at the same time, the doing the thing at the same time. If I can't do all of it, then I won't do any of it. I'm less like that now. I'm definitely, I've still got my daily practice. I can definitely work more on a set routine, using time more efficiently, because I've been, in a dreamy, sort of timeless void space the past few months, it feels like. Feeling with everything that's happened on the world, like, I don't know what you guys know about, what happened in Australia through this whole thing, but nah, I'm definitely got a lot more trauma to process than I realize. And from that place, I got to do my best not to self-sabotage, because that place of hurt, the protective mechanisms come in and they're like, no, this is too hard. You don't want to deal with that. Just go drink a chai. Don't do your work. Just go on Instagram. Just go to the ocean. And absolutely going to the ocean, cleanse yourself with the salt. But is it out of bypass, or is it out of, I love myself, I've worked, and now I need to relax? The moral of the story is, unblock yourself incrementally and consistently. The moral of the story is, those blocks exist on a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and relational level. Those blocks require you to move energy in different ways. Not just fixating on the physical, not just fixating on the mind, the holistic approach. And this consistency breeds mastery. The mastery of you, the mastery of your own life, the art form, the masterpiece of you. And so what I spoke to before, these labels, and how maybe these labels actually don't assist you because they restrict you, or they prescribe you with a certain experience instead of you being all the colors in between. Pay attention to where your ego is identifying so much with a particular label, a state of being that, oh, I'm a nervous person, or I'm a confident person, or I'm an artist, or whatever it is. Pay attention to where the ego is attaching, to where you are then becoming comfortable with that label and not penetrating deeper and just scraping the surface as a bypass mechanism to actually knowing yourself. In and out. Good, bad, and ugly. Shadow and light. Good, bad. For me, I have a long way to go. I have a freaking long way to go. There have been periods throughout this process where I have felt objectively evil. And so that is part of this whole journey of knowing myself, of facing the shadow that I ran away from. And I didn't even know I was running away from it. That's how strong the protective mechanisms were. The split within my own being of not integrating these shadow parts has also created blocks. If I can't flow energy through light and dark, in and out, up and down, and I'm just stuck in one side, I'm blocked. And no one can help me except me. No one can help you except you. You got to tune in first. And if you need outside support, well, you got to know what support you need. And that requires you tuning into yourself. So it's about not just scraping the surface. It's about knowing ourselves, even if it's horribly dark and uncomfortable. And we seem like terrible people. That the very thing that we wanted to be, we're actually then creating the opposite. You know, I've identified so long with being the peacekeeper. But as a result, I've created the opposite of drama queen. But I didn't look at drama queen. And so drama queen shadow got quite big. And she's been playing her shit out, let me tell you. I invite you to also tune into what is the need, the unmet need behind the block. If the block is, I feel afraid to share myself, to be seen, then what is the unmet need behind that? This is a huge pillar of nonviolent communication. Getting to the needs. What is the need behind that? Is that a need to be accepted, to belong? Just observe. And, you know, I can say that in this calm voice, just observe. Shanti, Shanti. In the moment, guys, is freaking hard, okay? In the moment, observing is an art form in itself. And there will be times where you'll sit your Vipassana and you'll feel like a guru, and then you'll come out into the karmic realm and your shit will come up again and you'll feel like you just fell from grace. Can you observe that? And can you be okay with that? Can you trust that this is a process, this is a journey? You're going to get it some days. It's going to be really hard some other days, and you're going to wish you didn't even have to deal with anything on other days. So yes, from my calm place now, observe. Shanti, Shanti. Know thyself. But when you get triggered, whole other story. Good luck there. Well, that's why we do this foundational work. The reason we meditate, the reason we do our journal work, the reason we do catharsis, cathartic release, is so that in the moment of trigger, we aren't just going to completely lose our shit. Like, we are going to be able to hold ourselves with more strength, with more willpower, and turn that red flame into blue flame and actually navigate the situation more coherently, compassionately, maturely. Right? So, lose your shit, but learn from it. Know what your blocks are and move them on a physical, mental, emotional level. Spiritual level as well, yeah. Start from the physical if you need. Shake a little, jump a little, do breath work, do super intense push-ups if you need to do that. Whatever it is, remember that the blocks you are experiencing, that you have convinced yourself are the reasons why you can't live your truth. Know that that is energy that just needs to move. Make it real simple for yourself. This is energy that is stuck. Okay, how can I move the energy? Unfortunately, there is no one pill to take. There is no one meditation to do. There is no one YouTube video to watch. They can plant seeds, but you got to do something with those seeds. So, sow them well, and may there be a bountiful, fruitful harvest. And in the meantime, big love. Thank you for being here. Speak to you soon.